waiting for the rest, maybe you can chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, and verse 19. Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Yat shrimvatam rasajnanam.
Yat shrimvatam rasajnanam.
Yat shrimvatam rasajnanam.
Yat shrimvatam rasajnanam.
Sadhu sadhu pade pade.
Sadhu sadhu pade pade.
Sadhu sadhu pade pade.
Sadhu sadhu pade pade.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Shrimvatam rasajnanam.
Yashirnatam rasajnanam.
Sadhu sadhu pade pade.
Sadhu sadhu pade pade.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Yashrinvatam rasajnanam.
Yashirnatam rasajnanam.
Svadu pade pade.
Svadu svadu pade pade.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Yashrinvatam rasajnanam.
Yashirnatam rasajnanam.
Svadu pade pade.
Svadu svadu pade pade.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Yashrinvatam rasajnanam.
Yashirnatam rasajnanam.
Svadu pade pade.
Svadu svadu pade pade.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Yatsinvatam rasa jnanam.
Yachinalvam rasajnanam.
Svadu svadu pade pade.
Svadu svadu pade pade.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Uttama shloka vikrame.
Yashrinvatam rasajnanam.
Yashinadvam rasajnanam.
Svadu pade pade.
Svadu svadu pade pade.
Mataji.
Vayam tuna vitripyama. Uttama shloka vikrame. Yashrinvatam rasajnanam. Svadu svadu pade pade.
Vayam tuna vitripyama.
Vayam tuna vitripyama. Uttama shloka vikrame. Yashrinvatam rasajnanam. Svadu svadu pade pade. Vayam. We.
To. But. Na. Not.
Vitripyanam.
Shall be addressed. Uttama Shloka.
Uttama Shloka.
The personality of Godhead.
The personality of Godhead.
Who is glorified.
Who is glorified.
By transcendental praise.
By transcendental appearance.
Vikrame. Adventures.
Yat.
Which.
Shrinvantam.
By continuous hearing.
Rasa. Humam. Jnanam.
Those who are conversant with. Svadu. Relishing. Svadu.
Palatable. Pade. At every step.
So translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sudhaktivedanta Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Translation. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by the hymns and praise. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with Him relish hearing of His pastimes at every moment. So maybe we can repeat, because it's a very nice verse. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes
of the personality of Godhead,
who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with Him relish hearing of His pastimes at every moment. Thank you. So, purport. There is a great difference between mundane stories, fiction or history, and the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The histories of the whole universe contain references to the pastimes of the incarnation of the Lord. The Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Puranas are histories of bygone ages recorded in connection with the pastimes of the incarnation of the Lord, and therefore remain fresh, and even after repeated readings. For example, anyone may read Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam repeatedly throughout his whole life, and yet find in them new light of information. Mundane news is static, whereas transcendental news is dynamic, inasmuch as the spirit is dynamic and matter is static. Those who have developed a taste for understanding the transcendental subject matter are never tired of hearing such narrations. One is quickly satiated by mundane activities, but no one is satiated by transcendental or devotional activities. Uttama Shloka indicates the literature which is not meant for nescience. Mundane literature is in the mode of darkness or ignorance, whereas transcendental literature is quite different. Transcendental literature is above the mode of darkness, and its light becomes more luminous with progressive reading and realization of the transcendental subject matter. The so-called liberated persons are never satisfied by the repetition of the word Aham Brahmasmi. Such artificial realization of Brahman becomes hackneyed, and so to relish real pleasure, they turn to the narrations of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who are not so fortunate turn to altruism and worldly philanthropy. This means the Mayavad philosophy is mundane, whereas the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental. So we never tired of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by the hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with Him relish hearing of His pastimes at every moment. Om Agyanati Minandasya Yanandana Sharakaya Shakshuru militam yena tashmai shigurave namah Chaitanya manobishtam shtapitam yena bhutare Swayam upakadamayam dhanati svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagravatam Savana Raghunatam Tam Sankarijam Sadvaitam Savaditam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Savana Ladita Shri Vishakavitansha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustite Tatta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Yarevasha Patitanam Bhavadevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. Again, thank you so much for coming for this Bhagavatam class this morning. So I feel quite embarrassed because I was told that today was a reading of Chaitanya Charitamrita, one particular verse in Adi Lila, but it's pretty close to this one, so I will try my best to say something. And beforehand, maybe some of you remember that we have a very nice class on gratitude a couple of days ago by this very nice Mataji, the mother of this youth Yatra from Sweden. So before I start, I would like to thank all the devotees from New Mayapur for welcoming us, and that I'm able to come here and take shelter of Radha Govinda Madhava, Krishna Balaram, and Gaura Nitai, and all the devotees here. And thank everyone for the unique service that they are doing here, and the association that basically allows us to stay in Krishna consciousness. And of course, I will request, please, the blessings of all the senior devotees that are here, that I may say something, and please forgive me if I say anything that is not according to our charyas or the philosophy of Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam. So, I'll be honest, I haven't really prepared, so I'm gonna kind of talk from my heart and try to open up this verse from the point of my own realization, let's say, even though I don't have so much of realization. But we never tire of hearing the transcendental person, the personality of Godhead, which is a pretty clear indication of somebody that has already attained a pretty elevated state of Krishna consciousness, one who can relish those pastimes and again hear about them without tiring. So I've been talking to many devotees recently, trying to actually figure out how does one come to that particular stage, because we may have seen or felt ourselves that sometimes we get tired of maybe being in a class and hearing and trying to stay awake, or sometimes we may be tired of the philosophy in itself, or even the association of devotees. You know, and we may be in that state of consciousness where not everything is clear, where we may have doubts, or when we may feel frustration for some reason or other. So for myself, it's been happening a lot recently, because I've been serving at a particular center in Alicante, and somehow Krishna has put my faith to test, because with the lack of association of sadhu sangha or the brahmacharis, I found myself to be alone in the temple and having to practice Krishna consciousness. So that has created some tension and also a desperate search for what we know as Nishta. So a need to become fixed in Krishna consciousness and to find Krishna even when He's not not clearly manifested before us through beautiful temple, beautiful association, deities, and kirtans, and so on. So I've been trying to really maintain my sadhana, reading, hearing, and so on, but realize that without the association of devotees, it's actually something that is very, very, very hard to do. So my question that we asked during this calendar to all of you is that how do we come to that stage, and how do we maintain our particular Krishna consciousness despite all circumstances, external circumstances, or internal fluctuations of the mind. So this verse particularly describes one devotee who's never tired of hearing, and of course we take shelter of not only Srimad Bhagavatam but also Bhagavad Gita to hear the example of those devotees who do have that test, like Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, for example, does ask Krishna, please tell me more about you, because I want to hear more and more. Same with Parikshit Maharaj in this particular transcendental literature, who asks Sukadev Goswami, please tell me more, I want to hear more and more of the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we know that Krishna says also in Bhagavad Gita that one who understands my activities, my appearances and disappearances, is a person that actually liberates himself from the material world, this mundane plane. So within my meditation, and after talking to many different devotees, for example, like Hoti Prabhu, we have a nice conversation yesterday while taking prasadam. He was telling me about his association with different sannyasis and different elevated devotees, such as Vayam Bhagavan, Keshav Swami Maharaj, Prahladananda Maharaj, Rasananda Goswami Maharaj, and telling me about the particular transcendental personalities, and which I found very inspiring, and I really tried to hear what he was telling me, really tried to hear what he was trying to convey to me, because I feel like he was, out of his mercy and compassion, he was trying to actually rise me up to that platform and make me understand this is what it means to be fixed in Krishna consciousness, and to develop that taste for hearing and chanting. So while he was telling me about these different personalities that we know within our movement, I felt quite embarrassed again, because I was thinking, well, how can we clearly get to that stage or emulate that? It felt something that is almost impossible, even by being within the association, because we know that even within the association of great personalities, sometimes we may deviate from our Krishna consciousness. So again, the same question comes back again and again and again and again. And it becomes really this, this hunt, this little hunt for understanding what does it take to become Krishna conscious, and what does it take to become greedy and to develop this love of Godhead. So I may share with you one particular pastime that actually was very revealing to me, and may express what we should do in order to maintain Krishna consciousness despite everything else that is happening in our life. So there's a particular pastime within Krishna book, you may all read it, that is called The Gopis Attracted by the Flute. So as Krishna is in the forest and plays the flute, he attracts all the gopis who are busy in their different duties by, taking care of their husbands, of their children, of their families, responsibilities within their societies. So they are immediately attracted by this flute, so they run to Krishna, to the forest. So I thought that this was very indicative to our own process of hearing this transcendental mantra and chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because it's not different from Krishna. So this is our process that will pull us towards Krishna. So this attraction, this pull, we should try to really surrender to it. So if you please can chant Hare Krishna one more time with me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So this particular sound vibration that is not different from Krishna is what actually attracts the gopis and us, the jiva, the living entity, towards Krishna. So when we manage to chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra without committing any offenses and really putting our devotion into it, then we feel this taste and we are definitely attracted towards Krishna. But then what happens is that sometimes even while we chant the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, we find that we have no taste. We find that it's difficult to control the mind or to control the senses. So what do we do in those situations? So what this particular pastime has taught me is that the moment the gopis arrive in front of Krishna, the first things that he does, he tells them to go back to their husbands, to their families, to their children, to their duties. And what happens is that they feel bewildered at first, just like one may feel bewildered to not find any text while chanting, not understanding why are all these anarthas coming back to the surface. What is going on? You know, I've been trying to do everything properly, but still, why is it that I'm harassed by the material energy? So somehow Krishna tried to push us back to the material energy. Just go back to that. So what this particular pastime has taught me is that the gopis stand firm in their devotion and they categorically refuse to go back because they understand that there's nothing to go back to, that everything is eternally existing within Krishna. And for that reason, we are bound to him by our understanding that we are completely and fully depending on him. So I've heard a class from Bhakti Gauravani Maharaj in Spain. He was giving a class, a very philosophical class, but he was asking the question of why is there anything instead of nothing. Within that class he explored many different philosophies and philosophers trying to answer that question, and he came to the conclusion that actually the reason why there's something instead of nothing is just for the purpose of loving exchange, or rasa, this love exchange between us and God. And one of the things he mentioned actually kind of revealed an important aspect of devotional service, is that he said that everything within the material world is contingent on something else, that we are always depending on something else. We as conditioned living entities, we need air, we need food, we need so many other things to survive and to live. We are never truly independent. And what this has taught me in that particular moment is that we are forever dependent on Krishna for absolutely everything. For thinking, breathing, eating, walking, sleeping, whatever it may be, we are always depending on Krishna. So this gave me an insight into also how devotees always rely on Krishna for everything. So if you see the pastimes of Krishna and the Gopas in Vrindavan, whenever there's danger, whenever there's a demon, whenever there's anything going on, what is the first thing that they do, the Gopas do, the dear friends of Krishna? What do they do? Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. They just call on Krishna. They just desperately call on Krishna. Although a few minutes earlier they were like fighting with him and claiming victory over Krishna while wrestling with him. Whenever there's any type of danger, they actually call for Krishna for help. So this call for help was also what Prabhupada teaches us on how we should chant this Mahamantra Hare Krishna. That is a call for help. And whenever we are harassed by different anarthas, thoughts, and different external circumstances, we should call for help by chanting this Mahamantra Hare Krishna. So something else that has this particular realization has taught me is that going deeper into this dependence and surrender I kind of looked at the word surrender and tried to figure out what does it mean to surrender. Of course, we know that from Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his treatise on Saranagati, the different elements we need for surrender. But I focused on the word itself. So I looked at the etymology of the word surrender. And I figured that surrender, actually, if you decompose the word, you have the first part is su, which means basically fully or complete. And then you have render and the word re, which means back, to go back to something. You know, just like in religion, it's like a link, but it's like a reunion. So it's going back to something. And then the dare, which comes from the word dar, or da, which is the same root in Sanskrit, which means to give. So basically the word surrender is to give back something to where it belongs. So in that instance, I understood that surrender is not actually doing anything new. It's just to give ourselves back to Krishna. It's to go back where we belong. And it felt very much easier for me to kind of internalize that and try to practice surrender, because it's just like going back home, like Prabhupada says. Where is the difficulty in trying to go back home, you know, or feeling at home, or being in our original position? It's something that actually feels quite natural, although we may feel a lot of resistance most of the time because of different attraction for the material energy. This particular understanding helped me a lot to try to surrender more, in the sense that I'm just going back to where I belong. And since we belong to Krishna ourselves, it's only natural that we give ourselves back to Krishna. So then I went on to try to understand the particular mood of those pure devotees of the Lord, and what is the nature of their surrender. And figured that their surrender is particularly motivated by pure love of Krishna, and this really test of forever hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. So to get to that point also, I tried to look at the word nishta, to try to understand how do they get to that particular position, especially when we see the pastime of the gopis, and how do they stand their ground when Krishna tells them to go back. So if you look at the word nishta as well, the word, the first part, ni, actually means going towards, and shta means to stand or to stay. So nishta basically means that whenever there's something that is opposing our Krishna consciousness, our devotion, whatever it may be, and sometimes even if it may be Krishna himself testing us, then we have to stand our ground. We have to stay in Krishna consciousness. We have to remain and chant our rounds. And we have to remain in the association of devotees. And this is really what will help us to go through this stage of anartha nivriti, of purification, which is a very hard stage to go through. And I found myself that sometimes it feels like everyone is trying to go through that stage alone, although we are within a movement, within a family, and that we are all struggling in our own and trying to figure out how do I get there. But the gopis don't get there by themselves. They have each other. The gopas have each other, and we have also each other. So when we try to stand our ground and really try to practice, even when things are hard, that's when we come to the stage of nishta, or being fixed in Krishna consciousness, which will naturally lead us to ruchi, having taste. And then everything else comes naturally. And after having taste, ruchi, we can develop a shakti, attachment. And after attachment, bhav, ecstatic emotion. And this condensed bhav can turn eventually into prema, love of God. So my meditation has been that if somehow I manage to stay and remain in the association of devotees, if I manage to chant my rounds even when it's hard, then I will attract the mercy of the Lord. And we have so many pastimes illustrating that, from Bhagavatam, from Chaitanya Charitamrita, For example, if you look at the pastime of Damodar and Lila, and how Mother Yashoda tries to bind Krishna with the ropes. She doesn't actually bind Krishna with the ropes, with her love, as we all know, but she does after so much endeavor, without giving up this really endeavor. And after everyone else tells her, you will not succeed, you will not manage to bind Krishna, but she doesn't care, and she continues and continues and continues. And this we can also see it within our own services. So because I'm a Sankirtan devotee, I will always talk about Sankirtan at some point. So in our service of distributing books and trying to share Krishna consciousness outside, it may at times be very difficult, And by following the instructions and the mood of our spiritual masters, especially Jananda Goswami Maharaj here in France, we may get to that stage of Nishta. And here we have a beautiful example of Emil, who is so fired up in book distribution, although he has started in Krishna consciousness. It's been how long now?
4 months.
4 months. After 4 months distributing books on the streets and doing amazing. So that is by the mercy of the spiritual master. So something we know also as Guru Nishta. So having faith in the spiritual master help us to be empowered and come to that stage where we are completely fixed in our Krishna consciousness. That is very important to understand that the thread that connects us to Krishna is this Guru Parampara, And by this thread we may remain fixed in our Krishna consciousness and therefore do incredible service for Krishna and his devotees. So particularly we are trying to serve Maharaj, especially during this month, because we're still in this great campaign of Bhadrapurni, and therefore devotees all over the world are trying to distribute Srimad Bhagavatams all over the world, and we see that by the enthusiasm of devotees, this is a great service, and so many books, Bhagavatams, are going outside. So similarly, if we remain fixed in our service and try to please the spiritual master, then we can attract the mercy of the spiritual master no matter what. So there may be other examples also, maybe we can explore some pastimes. But first I would like to ask if there's any questions or commentaries so far, something you would like to add. Yes, Prabhu.
You said that Krishna pushes us into Maya. But I don't think that's correct.
Yes, Prabhu.
It's Maya who pushes us. Krishna, he's not pushing us in Maya. Krishna, he wants us to go back to him.
Yes, Prabhu. So what I meant by that is that Krishna sometimes...
Doing it through the agency of the material energy.
Yes. Yes, Prabhu. Anything? So what I meant by that is that sometimes Krishna puts us through a test.
But that's not Maya.
Yes.
That's different.
Yes, Prabhu. You're correct. You're correct. I expressed myself wrongly. I didn't use the proper words.
You didn't mean to say it, but just for the understanding, Krishna doesn't put us in Maya.
Yes.
We put ourselves in Maya.
Yes. So that is correct, Prabhu. Krishna wants us to go back to him. And especially for those who are interested in Krishna consciousness, who are interested in surrendering to Krishna, he doesn't push us towards Maya, but he will definitely try to increase our love by testing us and seeing if we can develop this absorption in him by remaining in Krishna consciousness, although there are difficulties. So yes, that is completely true. Krishna does not push us into Maya. As Prabhu has said, is completely correct. Anything else? Any other corrections?
In continuation, I have heard Prabhupada in his lectures say many times that when we want to be in Maya, Krishna gives us facilities to be in Maya.
So that is also correct.
It's actually from us. If we want to be in Maya, Krishna.
That is also correct.
Because he's not forcing anyone to.
That is also correct. So whenever Krishna gives us the opportunity to be with him, or he gives us some tests or So we are the one who choose. He gives us this opportunity to choose. We either choose Krishna or we either choose his material energy. And it is fully correct that Krishna's interest is for us to go back to Godhead. But he also says in Bhagavad Gita, for those people who are envious, and those people who are rascals and worst, that he will cast them into the worst parts of ignorance, regions of ignorance. He does say that. There are consequences also to the choices we make, and if we don't want to be Krishna conscious, therefore we are put into Maya.
But my point was to say that we are not innocent.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not that Krishna did it, it's his fault.
That
was my point.
Yes,
it's our fault, we are guilty.
Yes, of course. We take responsibility.
I think Krishna is the control of everything.
Yes.
We also have our free will. That was my point.
Yes. Yes. So, one devotee one time gave me this really great advice. He said that at every moment actually we have this same choice. At every moment we may choose to be either Krishna conscious or to be in Maya. At every moment. And he said this is actually developing a muscle, The more you choose Krishna, the more you remain in Krishna consciousness. And also reminds me of the pastimes of Prabhupada, where a devotee particularly told Prabhupada, I'm in Maya now. I've fallen into Maya. And Prabhupada responded, look, you are always in Maya. It's just that sometimes you fall into Krishna consciousness. So this is a very interesting take, because this tells me that I am always in Maya. I'm constantly in Maya. And sometimes, by the mercy of devotees, by the mercy of Prabhupada, I may understand something, or I may feel something during a kirtan or during chanting, and I might have a glimpse of what it's like to be on that platform. But generally speaking, I am always in Maya. So, when I see great personalities again within our own movement, and like yourself, Prabhu, and your spiritual master, Rasananda Swami Maharaj, I cannot just help but think those personalities don't even walk on earth. They're so exalted, and this is a certain example that they always remain in Krishna consciousness. So, what Nishta means for me is to stay in that Krishna consciousness. So that means that whenever we do kirtans, we do service, and we may have a glimpse, we try to hold on to that glimpse of Krishna consciousness as much as possible, as long as possible. So you may all have felt this feeling you have after kirtan, this buzzing, this holy name that still just keeps on going on within your own mind. And just, for me, it means to hold on to that as long as possible. Not that after reading, or after kirtan, or after the association of devotees, we just become distracted right afterwards. And sometimes we engage in true prajalpa, gossip, and some other things, Try to hold on to that feeling, to those realizations after reading and so on, as long as possible. And the more we do that, the longer we do that, the longer we can remain in Krishna consciousness, and therefore never leave. And it becomes reversed. Instead of always being in Maya, and sometimes being in Krishna consciousness, then we can always be in Krishna consciousness and never be in Maya. Yes, Prabhu.
Since you compared the struggle of a sadhaka vis-a-vis sense gratification and in parallel the pastime of Krishna telling the gopis to go home, maybe you could explain again to us the distinction between the concept of yoga maya and mahamaya. That may clarify.
That is amazing. Yes, that's for my humble understanding. When a devotee is engaged in Krishna consciousness and practicing in Krishna consciousness, they are under the jurisdiction of Yogamaya, so the internal potency of Krishna. Just like Prabhupada said many times that for people who do not know or are not interested in Krishna consciousness, they are under the jurisdiction of Mahamaya, meaning that they are being taken care by the material energy. So they have to go through karmic reactions, But for a devotee practicing in Krishna consciousness, he doesn't exactly go through karmic reaction, but it's Krishna who will give him the reaction of his work, you know, and especially diminish the whatever reaction, bad reaction he may have done in his past life, because he is engaged in Krishna consciousness. So Krishna is very merciful for those who are even trying and interested in knowing him. So I feel like that there's the difference. And then we say that Krishna gives us the opportunity and this kind of like dances between him and the jiva, where he kind of like puts us into circumstances where we have to purify ourselves. But he's just really accelerating our purification so we can come to that stage of being fixed in Krishna consciousness, you know. So what Prabhu was saying was really, really correct, in the sense that it's not that Krishna really pushes the devotee towards Maya. He gives us the opportunity to choose and to increase our love for him. Is that okay? So, I don't know what more can I say, but maybe you can share.
We have time to share a pastime?
Yes.
So this beautiful verse, Vayam Tuna Vitrapyama. This word, Vitrapyama, is very important. We never tire.
I'd like to share a beautiful pastime that came to my mind when I was hearing this translation. This is in the early years of ISKCON, and Srila Prabhupada once was in New Vrindavan. And this was the first time, I think, when Prabhupada was present in the New Vrindavan community on Janmashtami. So, as you all are quite aware, that Janmashtami is a very intense festival, you know. There are so many hundreds of services devotees are engaged in. And on top of that, you are fasting. Everybody is fasting. And that's also fasting from water. It's Nirjala fasting. So this was, the day where Srila Prabhupada himself exemplified the purport of this particular verse. So devotees had a wonderful festival, and at midnight there was ecstatic kirtan going on. Abhishek is done, and everybody, by the time it's midnight, everyone is wondering, oh, now is the time to break the fast, and now we are going to enjoy the wonderful Janmashtami feast that we've been waiting all day long. And then Srila Prabhupada, after the feast, after the Abhishek is over, and Prabhupada said, let's read Krishna book. And then one devotee starts reading the Krishna book, opens the Krishna book, The Advent of Krishna, chapter 1. And if you have read Krishna book, Prabhupada's beginning chapters are quite long. The Advent of Krishna, is over. And the whole chapter is read, takes about 15-20 minutes. And then, the devotee reads, thus ends the purport of the Bhakti Vedanta, purport, the first chapter of Krishna book, the Advent of Lord Krishna. And everybody will, Hari Bol! And they're thinking that, okay, that's it. And, Prabhupada is going to now say, okay, go have Rasananda. Prabhupada said, next chapter. And then the next chapter begins, which is even more longer, the prayers of the demigods in the womb for Lord Krishna. And this chapter is so long, if you go on, the prayers are pages after pages after pages. And Prabhupada's eyes are closed like this, and he is just relishing. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of young sannyasis in those days, so all the dandas were like this. Everybody's dozing in the class. And Prabhupada had no idea. And after about 20 minutes, the chapter is over. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport, the second chapter of Krishna book, Praise of the Demigods. The next chapter. So in this way, 5 chapters at midnight. And Prabhupada was with rapt attention. He's the one who's written all this. And he's relishing. He's just immersed in the nectar of Krishna's pastimes. And finally, when Prabhupada said, okay, now we can take prasad. And Hari Bol was the loudest Hari Bol at that time. So, this is, Bhagavatam is like a mirror. When Krishna is Vadham Upagate Dharma Jnana Advisaha. When Krishna disappeared from this world, he left behind the Srimad Bhagavatam for all of us too. So the scriptures are not just the scriptures, they're also like mirrors. So when we come in front of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are several parameters where we can realize where we stand. And one of them is our taste for hearing. And this is exactly what the sages are expressing. And we never tire to hear about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. And the remedy is also given in the Bhagavatam, that satam prasangam amavirya samvato. If you just sit in the association of devotees and go on hearing again and again, that itself is the remedy. It's like Prabhupada said, when a person is suffering from jaundice, he needs to be given sweet candy. Initially the sweet candy will not taste anything, but as he goes on eating that, he gets back his taste. So hearing is a symptom which tells us where we stand. So thank you very much for this wonderful class. Thank you everyone for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That's a lot of nectar. Hopefully we will hear a lot more from you and from all the devotees until Param Jayanti. So I heard that Prashadam now is at 8:45, is it? So thank you so much for tolerating me. Thank you everyone. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki,